If you too are thinking of jumping out of your Delulu world and go watch Ryan's World movie with your kids, just be the fool and keep on knitting your fool's paradise. Otherwise, we're afraid you may lose your sense of logic or your brain may explode.
You didn't have to cut me off.
Like, imagine spending $10 million to make a movie that barely makes $600K back. That's not just a flop, that's a belly flop from the highest diving board.
What?
But here's the thing that actually blew my mind. This wasn't just some straight-to-streaming garbage. They actually put this in real theaters. Internationally. The theaters were so empty that people were literally making TikToks about being the only ones there. I am not even joking. There are videos of people walking into empty theaters, and it's actually kind of sad. Imagine spending millions on a movie, and the only people showing up are TikTokers making content about how nobody showed up.
Who are you?
And look, I've been following this whole Ryan's World thing for a while, and I knew I had to watch this train wreck myself. But before we get into the actual dumpster fire that this movie is, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. Those money-hungry parent allegations that just won't go away. For those of you living under a rock, Ryan was literally the highest paid YouTuber at age 6. Let that sink in.
Come on, man.
Yes, while you were preparing for your biology exam, this kid was out there making more money playing with toys than most people make in their entire lifetime. We're talking $22 million in 2018, $26 million in 2019, it's actually insane. But here's where things get messed up. His parents turned this whole thing into this massive business empire. We're talking daily content, merchandise, everything you can imagine. Now, of course, Ryan's not that little kid anymore, he's about to be 13. But unfortunately, his content hasn't grown up with him. If you've seen his recent videos, you can tell something's off. It's like watching someone trying to squeeze the last bit of toothpaste out of the tube. But the tube is childhood, and the toothpaste is content. Look, I'm not trying to be another commentary channel dunking on a kids movie. That's too easy. But there's something really messed up about watching a teenager pretend to be excited about toys while his parents are desperately trying to keep their empire from crumbling.
What?
The movie feels like their last big swing at keeping the Ryan's World machine running. And honestly, the movie feels exactly like what the critics are saying. It's a cash grab, plain and simple. But I didn't want to just hop on the hate bandwagon without seeing it myself. So with a wrenching heart, I just pushed that buy button and bought the whole damn movie. Before we dive into this absolute clusterfuck of a movie, I just want to say, this isn't Ryan's fault. The kid's been performing since he was barely old enough to talk, and you can really see it in this movie. But we'll get to that. The real question isn't whether this movie is bad, it's how bad. And trust me, you're not ready for what I'm about to show you. Warning, keep your first aid box to an arm's length and a dustbin right next to your seat. Who knows, you may want to throw it out, because most scenes may incur allergic responses. The only thing that ain't an ick to your common sense throughout the movie is the studio names that the movie opens with. And that's not me being mean, that's just me unpacking my frustration after watching the movie. And there was the universe sending me signs, which, foolish me, kept on ignoring. Falling Forward Films. As you move forward in the movie, your standards for creative art really fall, and suddenly you want to go back to your primary school days and listen better to your English teacher's bizarre stories about her beauty and all.
How?
The movie opens with Ryan doing what he was good at, live streaming, which features Dan Rhodes. You must have watched Dan Rhodes while scrolling through YouTube shorts doing magic tricks and so on. In a normal world, Dan does the magic tricks, but because right now we are inside Ryan's world, expect anything but the expected. Hence, in the live stream, it is Ryan who is the magician and not Dan Rhodes, and get this, they show it having 16 million likes. Haha, the most liked livestream barely hit 7.6 million. What kind of parallel universe is this where Ryan's just casually breaking world records while doing basic magic tricks? And as what we see, Ryan seems to struggle to put Dan back into his shape, and the blame falls on his annoying yet generous twin sisters because they had stolen the magic glue. We must all thank these two girlies for putting all their efforts into stopping Ryan from creating cringe content. Nobody noticed, but these two little ladies were angels, trying to save us from intoxicating content, runny eyes, and bleeding ears. Respectfully bow to the girls. I mean, watching these scenes physically hurts. The acting, oh my god, the acting. It's like they grabbed everyone straight from a YouTube Kids commercial and said, just act natural. Except Ryan's sisters, they actually got professional voice actors for them later in the movie, which just makes Ryan's performance stand out even more awkwardly. Now, Ryan has a friend named Aiden in this movie.
From what I can tell, Aiden is a completely fictional character.
And apparently, Ryan and his friend Aiden go to this comic store, and this is where the movie goes from bad to what the actual f am I watching? They find this locked room with valuable comics, and instead of, I don't know, asking the guy at the counter about it, Aiden just starts trying to brute force the security code. In plain sight, with the employee right there.
You're the unboxing kid on YouTube.
But guess what? None of that matters because, surprise, surprise, the employee recognizes Ryan and just lets them in anyway. Because apparently, being a YouTube star means normal rules don't apply to you. Inside this room, they find this mysterious comic book featuring Ryan's own characters, which he supposedly never created. At this point, I'm starting to think this movie was written by an AI that was fed nothing but Ryan's World's videos and bad fanfiction. The best part, or the worst part depending on how you look at it, this is actually the most coherent part of the movie. Yes, let that sink in, because what comes next is a lot more terrible. So remember that comic book they yoinked from the store? Well, it turns out it's not just any comic, it's a magical portal book. Because of course it is. The movie doesn't even try to explain how or why this happens. It's just like, boom, portal time, baby, and suddenly we're thrown into this animated world that looks like what would happen if you asked an AI to combine anime with a dollar store toy commercial. The second Ryan enters this animated world, he immediately gets superhero powers. No training montage, no learning curve, nothing. My man just starts throwing hands like he's been doing this his whole life. There's this one scene where he's fighting these evil cyborg pandas, I swear I'm not on anything, and he's pulling moves that would make even All Might from My Hero Academia raise an eyebrow.
Emotional, damn it!
Meanwhile, in the real world, we've got Aiden, the most useless character. His entire job is to make sure Ryan's parents don't find out that their son got sucked into a comic book. Dude, if my kid disappeared into another dimension, I think I'd want to know about that. But whatever, movie logic, I guess. Here comes the real embarrassment to logic. Ryan's sisters and all his toys, who are supposed to be the superheroes, are locked up in some sort of jail. That's kind of funny, because if your superheroes are locked up in jail, why are they even superheroes? Imagine Superman getting trapped in some booby trap. Like, does that even make any sense? I cannot imagine Superman getting caught in a booby trap. Well, let's not forget the target audience is toddlers, and they are not as critical as we are. So, I can give the writer that. But honestly, the writer himself is confused about his target audience, and there is no way he had this in mind while he was crafting the script. Back to the movie. The superheroes and the sisters manage to escape the jail and they meet Ryan. Ryan, who was there to rescue his sisters, now beats up the Dark Titan with the help of those little sisters and his superhero toys. The villain's dramatic death reminds me of melodramatic movies where the chandelier kills a female protagonist and the male lead reincarnates to get her revenge on the villain. Except that here, it is not the poor female lead, but rather the bad guy who dies under the chandelier.
The big bad!
After the fight ends, the writer does his best and tries to introduce a new twist in the storyline. He brings out a new villain. Damn, I did better in my math class than this writer. I mean, no offense to the writer, but I believe if the pen was in Ryan's hand, his childlike curious mind would have come up with a better storyline and more suspenseful twists and turns. On that, the new villain, who is actually the head honcho, is named the Big Bad. Seriously? An uninterested boyfriend puts more effort than the writer did? My real question is, do we watch this movie or flush it? Alright, so now we know the Big Bad exists but don't know where, and suddenly, a volcano, which is called Vilcano because the villains live there, erupts. And there we go. Ryan doesn't have to brainstorm any further, and he knows the villain's whereabouts. The team of superheroes led by Ryan head to the volcano, where they meet the Big Bad, and you would be appalled to know that this guy is actually the salesperson back from the comic store. He plans to ruin the Ryan world because apparently his sister was more invested in watching Ryan's videos than bonding with her own brother. So he is taking revenge instead of snatching the iPad from his sister and then throwing it away. On the flip side, the writer's actually validating parents' concerns about the negative effects of Ryan's world videos on their kids. That's really the dumbest way to defame your own merchandise. Anyways, when Ryan and his team are in total dismay, Aiden forces the rest of the cast into the comic book and they all join hands to beat the Big Bad. But here's the real kicker. After they beat this guy through the power of friendship or whatever, I honestly stopped trying to make sense of it, they still have to deal with the whole world is literally covered in lava situation. Now you'd think they'd come up with some epic solution, right? Maybe some cool sacrifice or clever plan. Nope. They get a penguin, to solve it by writing some random equations on a board. That's it. That's literally how they save the world. And the worst part? They don't even try to explain how any of this works. The penguin just writes some random symbols and suddenly everything is fine. It's like they got to the end of filming and realized they forgot to write an ending. So they just went with the first idea someone threw out during their lunch break. Hey, what if a penguin just fixes it? Perfect. Wrap it up. We're done here. So, what's the final verdict on this absolute roller coaster of a movie? Look, I'm not going to jump on the hate bandwagon and call it the worst thing ever made. That's too easy. IMDb gave it a 2.2 out of 10, which feels a bit harsh. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10, and those 4 points are mostly for the unintentional comedy this thing provided.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Here's the thing though, this movie is a perfect example of everything wrong with the whole Ryan's World situation. The thing that really gets me though is the wasted potential. They had everything they needed to make something decent. A big budget, professional animators, experienced voice actors, an established brand. But instead of making a movie that could actually stand on its own, they made what feels like a feature-length toy commercial that somehow got lost and ended up in theaters. But you know what? At the end of the day, none of this is Ryan's fault. This kid's been the face of $1 million empire since he was in preschool. He never asked for this movie to be made, and you can tell he's just doing his best with what he's given. The real question we should be asking is, when do we let Ryan just be Ryan? Look, if you're thinking about watching this movie, maybe save your money. Or don't, I'm not your dad. Maybe you want to see this train wreck for yourself. I mean, I did, and now I'm making this video about it. Just, if you do watch it, pour one out for Ryan. He's been carrying this empire since he was 4, and this is what they give him as a send-off. But for real though, can we start a GoFundMe to let Ryan retire? He's definitely earned it at this point. If you enjoyed watching me suffer through this movie so you didn't have to, maybe hit that like button and subscribe. I've got more videos coming where I watch questionable content and question my life choices, so stick around for that, and let me know in the comments what you think. Should Ryan's parents let him retire, or should we get ready for Ryan's world, the college years? Peace out!